The night was calm, but the silence carried weight, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. The human soldier walked slowly through the alien city, his boots echoing against the polished stone floor of the great hall. He had seen many strange places in his life, but this one felt different, almost alive, as if the walls whispered secrets from the past. Torches burned with blue flames, throwing shadows that danced across the carved pillars. The alien guards stood tall at the entrance, their glowing eyes following his every step, their weapons ready, but their faces unreadable. He was tired, his uniform torn from battle, his arm wrapped with a cloth to hide an injury. He had survived another mission, another fight, but tonight was not about survival. It was about something he himself could not explain, something strange carved on his arm, a mark he had never seen before the last battle. It was glowing faintly, like fire under the skin, sometimes pulsing like a heartbeat. He had tried to ignore it, tried to wash it away, but it stayed, as if it belonged to him, as if it had chosen him. Inside the hall, alien nobles and scholars gathered in silence. They had heard rumors, they had seen reports, and now they stared at the human as if he was carrying a ghost. Some leaned closer, whispering to each other, their words sharp, filled with fear and doubt. Others simply watched, their glowing eyes wide, their long fingers tapping against their robes. But one among them did not whisper. She did not look with suspicion, she only stared. She was tall, elegant, with skin the color of violet dusk, her hair braided with silver threads that shimmered in the torchlight. Her eyes glowed faintly golden, like suns caught in twilight, and her face was calm yet sharp, filled with quiet strength. When she stepped forward, the hall grew silent. Even the guards shifted their stance, waiting for her words. But she did not speak. Not yet. She walked closer, her steps soft against the marble floor. Her gaze was fixed only on him, on the human, on his hidden arm wrapped in cloth. The soldier stood still, unsure of what to do. His instincts told him to prepare for danger. But her presence did not feel like danger. It felt like gravity, pulling him closer, holding his breath in his chest. When she stopped in front of him, she slowly reached for his arm, her hand gentle, her touch cool against his skin. Without asking, she pulled away the cloth, revealing the strange mark. The glowing lines curved across his skin like fire etched in flesh, sharp, ancient, alive. The hall gasped. Whispers rose like a storm. Some cried out in anger, some in fear, some in disbelief. The guards stepped forward, but the woman raised her hand, and they froze, obeying her without question. She stared at the mark, her lips parting as if she had found something long lost. Her golden eyes trembled with emotion, something between shock and recognition. The soldier opened his mouth to speak, to ask what this all meant. But before a word could escape, she moved. She leaned forward, her hand still holding his arm, and pressed her lips against his. The hall erupted in chaos, voices shouting, guards gripping their weapons, but none dared interrupt. The kiss was sudden, unexpected, yet filled with meaning he could not understand. When she finally pulled away, her face was close, her voice a whisper only he could hear. "You are the one we waited for," she said, her breath warm against his cheek. He stared at her, his heart pounding in confusion, his thoughts tangled. He wanted to demand answers, but her eyes silenced him. There was something ancient in them, something that told him the truth was larger than his own life. Around them, the nobles shouted, the council demanded explanation, and the guards struggled to keep order. But she ignored them all, her hand still gripping his arm tightly, as if she feared he would vanish. The soldier did not know whether to feel fear, anger, or something else. The kiss had left him shaken, not because of the act itself, but because of the weight behind it. It was not love, not attraction, it was recognition, as if she had been waiting for him, as if destiny had finally arrived. The glowing mark pulsed brighter, spreading warmth through his veins. He looked down at it, then back at her, his voice quiet but firm. "What does this mean?" Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "It means," she said, her voice carrying across the hall, silencing even the loudest cries, "the prophecy has awakened." The room froze, the air heavy with disbelief. The human soldier, still standing in shock, realized his life was no longer his own. The mark on his arm had bound him to something greater, something dangerous, something that began with a kiss and would end in fire and war. The silence after her words was louder than any battle he had ever fought. He did not know what would come next. But he knew one thing with certainty. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The hall did not calm. The echoes of the woman's words still rippled through the air. Whispers became arguments. Arguments became shouts. And soon the alien council split into two sides. Some saw the mark as hope, others as danger, and many called it a curse. But the woman who kissed him did not step back. She stood tall beside the human soldier, her hand still resting on his arm as if it gave her strength. The soldier's eyes darted from face to face. He could feel their judgment pressing down like heavy chains. He was no stranger to being judged, but this felt different. This felt personal. The mark on his arm glowed faintly, and every time it pulsed, the voices around him grew louder. It was as if the symbol itself stirred their emotions, like an ancient fire awakening in their hearts. Finally, an elder with silver skin and long black robes raised his hand. His voice was sharp, his tone filled with authority. "This mark is forbidden," he declared. The prophecy spoke of it, yes, but it also warned that such power would destroy us if it ever returned. His words made the council fall silent, his authority too strong to challenge easily. He turned his glowing eyes toward the human. "You should not exist among us, not with that curse burned into your flesh." The soldier clenched his fists, anger rising inside. But before he could reply, the woman beside him spoke. Her voice was calm but firm, carrying across the hall with surprising strength. "It is not a curse," she said. "It is the mark of the protector, the one chosen to shield us in our darkest hour." Her words caused a wave of protests, shouts of disbelief, even cries of betrayal. The elder's eyes narrowed. "You dare speak of legends as truth?" She stepped closer to the human, her golden eyes glowing brighter now. "I dare because I know," she said. "This symbol is not death, it is salvation." The hall erupted again, but this time the soldier felt the weight of her words sink into his bones. Salvation, protector, chosen one, the words spun in his head like blades. He was just a soldier, a man who fought battles because it was his duty, not because destiny guided him. And yet here he stood, caught in a storm of voices that spoke of prophecy and fate. The guards shifted uneasily, their weapons humming faintly, waiting for orders. Some of them stared at the human with fear, others with envy, a few with hope. The mark pulsed again, glowing brighter now, and he felt a strange warmth spreading through his veins. The alien woman looked at him, her lips pressed tight, her hand trembling slightly though she tried to hide it. He wondered if she too was afraid, if her kiss had been an act of belief or desperation. The elder slammed his staff against the marble floor, the sound cracked like thunder. "This human must be taken away," he commanded. "The prophecy cannot be allowed to unfold. It will bring ruin." The guards hesitated, their glowing eyes flicking between the human and the woman. No one moved, no one dared step forward first. The soldier took a deep breath, his voice cutting through the noise. "I don't know what this mark means," he said, his tone steady, "but I will not be treated like a prisoner for something I never chose." The woman's eyes widened slightly at his words, her lips curved into the faintest smile. For a moment, the chaos quieted, the council paused, and the soldier's defiance seemed to echo louder than the elder's command. Then another voice rose from the far end of the hall, a younger council member, tall and cloaked in green robes. "Perhaps the prophecy was not a warning of destruction, but a test," he said, his tone careful. The room shifted again, arguments flared, sides formed, suspicion deepened. The human stood still, his heart pounding, his mind racing. This was no ordinary mission, no simple war. This was something older, heavier, larger than himself. He looked at the woman again, her golden eyes locked onto his, and for the first time he saw not just calm strength, but fear hidden beneath. She had kissed him not out of desire, but to protect him, to claim him, to show the others that he was under her shield. The weight of that realization pressed hard against him, but it also lit a fire in his chest. The elder turned away, his voice low but filled with venom. "If the prophecy awakens, blood will follow, and it will be on your hands." With that, he swept from the hall, his followers close behind, their whispers sharp like knives. The remaining council members argued still, but their voices carried less power now, divided by doubt. The woman finally leaned closer, her whisper soft, meant only for the human. "They will not stop," she said. "To them, you are either salvation or doom, nothing in between." The soldier swallowed hard, his jaw tight. He wanted to protest, to walk away, but deep inside he knew. This was not something he could escape. The mark had bound him to their world, their fate, their war. And no matter how much he denied it, the kiss, the prophecy, the whispers, they had already begun to change him. As the council chamber emptied slowly, one truth became clear. The forbidden symbol was not just a mark, it was a spark. And sparks, once seen, could no longer be ignored. The alien city did not sleep that night. Word of the human with the glowing mark spread faster than fire. From the towers of the nobles to the dark streets of the common folk, everyone whispered about the prophecy. Some called him the chosen one, others called him the cursed one, but all agreed that his arrival meant change. The human soldier, restless and uneasy, walked through the chamber given to him. The walls glowed faintly with alien light. The air carried a strange perfume of flowers he did not know. But he could not rest. His mind was trapped between the woman's kiss and the elder's warning. Every time he looked at the mark on his arm, he felt a strange heat under his skin, a pull that made his heart beat faster. He wanted answers, but the more he searched inside himself, the less he understood. The alien woman entered his chamber quietly, her steps graceful, her presence calm, yet filled with weight. She looked at him, her golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "They are watching you," she said softly, her voice carrying both warning and comfort. He nodded, his jaw tight. "I can feel it," he replied. "Every glance, every whisper, they want me gone." She stepped closer, her hands folded before her. "Not all want you gone," she said. "Some want to use you, some want to destroy you, but a few believe you can save us." The soldier frowned, the words heavy in his chest. He was no savior, no legend. He was just a man trained to fight, a soldier who carried scars of too many battles. Yet her voice, steady and certain, made him question his own doubts. "Why the kiss?" he asked suddenly, his tone sharper than he intended. Her eyes did not waver. "Because the mark is more than a symbol," she said. "It is a bond, a sign that the protector and the royal are tied together." The weight of her words struck him. The kiss had not been simple impulse. It had been ritual. She had claimed him before the council, bound him to her in ways he had not chosen. His breath caught, anger mixing with confusion. "You tied me to your world without asking," he said. Her lips pressed tightly, pain flashing in her golden eyes. "I did it to keep you alive," she whispered. "Without that kiss, they would have torn you apart." Silence hung heavy between them. The soldier turned away, staring at the glowing mark on his arm. Alive, yes, but now tangled in prophecy, politics, and bonds he did not understand. He was no longer just a visitor in this city. He had become the center of its storm. The next morning, the council chamber filled again. The elder who had called him a curse stood tall, his silver skin glowing faintly under the hall lights. He pointed toward the soldier, his voice sharp as steel. "This human must be removed," he declared. "The longer he stays, the more the prophecy coils around us." Many council members nodded, some in fear, others in anger, their voices rising in support. But not all agreed. The younger council member in green robes raised his hand. "We cannot ignore the prophecy," he argued. "Perhaps it is not destruction it brings, but rebirth." The chamber split once more, their arguments shaking the very air. And in the shadows, hidden eyes watched silently, planning, waiting, hungering for the chaos to break. Later, as the soldier walked through the market with the alien woman by his side, he felt the stares of the people. Some bowed their heads slightly in respect, others spat on the ground in disgust. Children whispered and pointed, their parents pulling them away. The mark on his arm was no longer just his burden. It had become a mirror of their fear and hope. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a cloaked figure following them. The soldier's instincts sharpened, every sense alert. He slowed his steps, pretending not to notice, but the figure moved whenever he moved. Finally, in a narrow alley, he turned quickly, his hand reaching for his weapon. The cloaked figure froze, then pulled back the hood, revealing another alien noble, his eyes glowing with secret fire. "You must leave before it is too late," the noble whispered, his voice urgent. "They will kill you, not in open hall, but in the dark, where prophecy cannot protect you." The soldier's grip on his weapon tightened, his voice low. "Who is they?" But the noble only shook his head, fear flickering across his face. "The prophecy has enemies, more than you know," he said, and then he slipped back into the crowd, vanishing like smoke. The soldier stood still, his heart heavy, his suspicion rising higher than ever. Enemies in the council, enemies in the shadows, whispers in every corner. He was not sure if the mark was truly destiny or a target painted on his flesh. But one truth burned clear in his mind. This was no longer just about survival. It was about trust, about betrayal, about who would stand with him and who would strike from the dark. The alien woman touched his arm gently, her voice quiet. "Now you see why I kissed you." He looked at her, his voice cold. "And now I see why they want me dead." The night fell heavy over the alien city, but the human soldier could not find rest. He sat alone in the chamber, the glow of the strange mark on his arm lighting the room like a faint fire. Every time it pulsed, he felt as if unseen eyes were staring at him, as if the past itself was breathing down his neck. The woman who had kissed him sat across the room in silence, her golden eyes watching him with quiet intensity. Neither spoke for a long time, the silence between them thicker than the walls of the palace. Finally, the soldier broke the silence, his voice low. "What is this prophecy they fear so much?" Her gaze did not waver, but there was pain in her eyes. "It is not just a prophecy," she whispered. "It is history." The soldier frowned, his heart tightening at her words. "History," he repeated. She nodded slowly. "Long ago, before even our council ruled, your kind stood with us. Humans and my people fought side by side." Her voice softened, filled with both pride and sorrow. "But betrayal ended that bond, and the symbol on your arm was lost." The soldier's breath caught, his mind struggling to grasp her words. He had never heard of such a story. No record on Earth spoke of fighting alongside aliens in ancient wars. How could humans be part of this? He asked, suspicion thick in his voice. The woman looked away, her fingers tightening around the silver threads in her hair. "Because your blood remembers," she said softly. "The mark only appears on one who carries the courage and spirit of the forgotten protectors." The soldier stared at the glowing symbol, his thoughts turning dark. If her words were true, then humanity's past was far greater and far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. And if it was a lie, then he was nothing more than a pawn caught in their politics. His chest tightened, his heart restless, trapped between disbelief and the sharp edge of possibility. Suddenly, the woman stood and walked toward a hidden wall at the back of the chamber. Her hand pressed against a pattern in the stone, and the wall shifted, opening into a narrow passage filled with dim blue light. "Come," she said firmly. "It is time you saw the truth with your own eyes." The soldier hesitated, his instincts screaming caution, but the pull of the unknown was stronger. He followed her into the passage, the walls closing behind them like a mouth swallowing secrets. They walked for what felt like hours, the air growing colder, the silence pressing against their ears. Finally, they entered a vast chamber buried deep beneath the palace. At its center stood a massive stone tablet, etched with glowing lines identical to the mark on his arm. The soldier froze, his breath stolen by the sight. The symbol on his skin pulsed in rhythm with the carvings on the stone. It was as if the tablet itself recognized him, as if it called to him across time. The woman's voice echoed softly in the chamber. "This is the covenant stone. It records the pact made between humans and my people thousands of years ago," she explained. Her hand brushed the carvings gently, reverently. "Your kind swore to stand as our protectors in the time of greatest darkness, and we swore to stand by you." The soldier shook his head, his voice strained. "But why me? Why now?" She turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "Because the darkness returns, and the protector always rises when the world is on the edge." The words settled heavy in his chest. Protector, destiny, prophecy. He had heard these words too many times, and yet he could not deny what he saw with his own eyes. The stone glowed with the same fire as the mark on his skin, a connection undeniable and terrifying. He stepped closer, his hand trembling as he reached out. When his fingers touched the tablet, a wave of heat surged through him, and visions flashed before his eyes. He saw battles on alien fields, humans fighting beside alien warriors, their blades cutting through shadows that screamed like thunder. He saw betrayal, fire, and chains breaking. He saw humans vanishing into the stars, their legacy forgotten. And then he saw himself, standing at the center of a battlefield yet to come, the mark on his arm blazing like a sun. He gasped and pulled back, his knees weak, sweat dripping from his brow. The woman's hand caught his arm, steadying him, her voice calm but heavy. "Now you know why they fear you." The soldier staggered, his heart pounding like drums of war. If the visions were true, he was not just a soldier anymore. He was a piece of history reborn, a key to their future. But if they were lies, then he was walking into a trap built from ancient myths. He clenched his fists, anger and fear twisting together inside him. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered. The woman's gaze softened. "No protector ever does," she replied. "But the mark chooses, not the man." Above them, faint echoes of footsteps rang through the stone corridors. The soldier froze, the woman's eyes narrowed. "They found us," she whispered, her hand pulling him toward the shadows of the chamber. The glow of the covenant stone dimmed, but the mark on his arm burned brighter, refusing to hide. The truth had been revealed, but now it had also painted a larger target on his back. As the heavy footsteps drew closer, the soldier understood one thing clearly. The mark was not just history, it was a weapon, and every power in the city would kill to control it. The hidden truth had been uncovered, but it was only the beginning of a greater storm. The hidden chamber was silent once more after the footsteps faded. The soldier leaned against the cold stone wall, his breath heavy, his mind storming with what he had seen. The covenant stone's visions still burned in his head, scenes of war, betrayal, and fire that felt too real to be only dreams. The alien woman stood close, her golden eyes watching him, her hand still gripping his arm. She whispered, "Now you understand why they will stop at nothing to silence you." The soldier clenched his fists, his jaw tight. "They already tried once," he said, remembering the cloaked noble who warned him in the streets. "They will try again," she replied, her tone heavy with certainty. He stared at her, confusion mixing with anger. "Why do you risk yourself for me? You barely know me." Her gaze softened, her voice steady. "Because the mark chose you, and because without you, my people will fall." Before he could answer, the chamber's stone doors groaned open. Light spilled inside, and a tall alien figure stepped through, draped in crimson robes. His face was sharp, his silver eyes glowing with cold authority. It was the same elder who had called him a curse before the council. Behind him, guards poured in, weapons raised, their armor humming with deadly energy. The woman stepped in front of the soldier, her voice sharp. "You cannot take him." The elder sneered, his tone venomous. "You think your kiss binds him to destiny, but I will not let prophecy control us." He raised his hand, and the guards closed in. The soldier reached for his weapon, but the woman pressed her hand to his chest, shaking her head. "Not here, not now," she whispered. Her golden eyes locked on the elder, her words cold. "If you harm him, you doom us all." The elder's laugh echoed across the chamber, harsh and cruel. "Doom? No," he said. "I bring salvation by cutting out the infection before it spreads." At his command, the guard surged forward. The soldier pushed the woman aside, his instincts taking over, his weapon flashing into his hand. Energy bolts lit the chamber, striking stone and filling the air with heat. He moved fast, blocking, dodging, striking back, each movement fueled by the strange fire of the mark. The woman raised her hands, summoning a golden shield of energy that shimmered in front of them. But even as she protected him, the elder's voice cut through the chaos. "You see, human, they do not want a protector, they want a weapon." His words struck deep, more painful than the blasts of energy around him. Was this what it all meant? To be nothing more than a tool of power? The soldier's fury boiled, his strikes growing sharper, the glow of the mark blazing brighter. The guards faltered, some falling back in fear, others pressing harder under the elder's command. But suddenly, from the shadows, another group of figures appeared. These were not council guards. Their armor bore the mark of rebels, hidden enemies long thought defeated. They attacked without hesitation, striking both council guards and the soldier, turning the chamber into chaos. The elder roared in rage, realizing the ambush had not been his doing. The woman grabbed the soldier's arm, pulling him toward the hidden passage. "This is not just betrayal of you," she said breathlessly. "This is betrayal of all of us." They ran as the chamber filled with screams, the sound of metal clashing, energy crackling, stone breaking. The Covenant stone glowed brighter behind them, as if warning them that destiny had shifted. When they finally reached the surface, the city itself was in unrest. Whispers of the human protector had already turned into riots. Some shouted for his rise, others for his death, and in the shadows, blades were already being sharpened. The soldier stood in the middle of it all, the weight of prophecy pressing against his chest. The woman turned to him, her face pale but fierce. "You cannot trust anyone now, not even the council." Her words sank deep, and the soldier realized the truth. The elder had tried to kill him. The rebels had used the chaos to strike, and the people were tearing themselves apart. Everywhere he turned, suspicion and betrayal followed. He was no longer just an outsider with a strange mark. He was the spark that had set the city on fire. That night, as he sat in silence with the woman beside him, he felt the mark pulse stronger. It was no longer just a symbol etched into his skin. It was a curse of suspicion, a chain of destiny. He looked at the woman, her golden eyes weary but unbroken. "You saved me," he said quietly, his voice rough. She shook her head, her lips pressed thin. "No," she whispered. "I only delayed the storm." The soldier understood then that survival was no longer enough. Betrayal had revealed itself, enemies had shown their faces, and war was no longer far away. The prophecy had chosen its protector, but the city had chosen its chaos. And he stood in the center, marked, hunted, and bound to a destiny that was no longer his to refuse. The city burned with whispers and fear. Every street corner echoed with arguments. Every marketplace turned into a battlefield of words. Some believed the human soldier was the chosen protector. Others demanded his death before the prophecy could come true. The mark on his arm had become more dangerous than any weapon he carried. It was no longer only his burden. It was the reason entire factions rose or collapsed overnight. The soldier walked through the palace halls with the alien woman beside him. Her golden eyes scanned the shadows, her body tense like a blade ready to strike. "Do you see?" she whispered. "This city is splitting apart because of you." He clenched his fists, anger and guilt twisting in his chest. "I never asked for this," he muttered. "I only wanted to survive, not lead your people into chaos." She stopped, turning sharply to face him, her gaze sharp. "Destiny does not wait for what you want," she said firmly. "It takes what it needs." Her words cut deep, leaving him silent, his heart heavy with doubt. But doubt was dangerous now, because trust was already fading. Even within the council, alliances shifted like sand in the wind. That night, the council called for another meeting. The elder who had once tried to destroy him was absent, but his influence still poisoned the room. One by one, council members spoke of fear, of rebellion, of blood already spilled in the streets. Some demanded the human be locked away until the prophecy could be studied further. Others argued he should be raised as a symbol of unity before the people lost all faith. The chamber shook with voices, but no agreement was found. The soldier stood silently, his eyes scanning the room. Every glance he met carried suspicion, even from those who once defended him. He realized then that betrayal was not only from enemies outside, it was already brewing within. The woman placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying him. "They will never agree," she whispered. "The only way forward is to choose who you will trust." Later, as they left the council, a guard approached quietly. He bowed low, his voice hushed. "The rebels grow stronger. They plan to strike within days." The soldier's jaw tightened. "And the council does nothing." The guard's eyes flickered nervously. "They argue while the city prepares for war." The woman dismissed the guard, but her face was pale, her voice heavy. "We cannot wait for them," she said. We must gather those who still believe. In the following days, small groups began to form around the soldier. Some were warriors who swore loyalty after seeing the mark glow in battle. Others were common folk who whispered his name as if it carried hope. But not all who came were true. Among them were spies, liars, and opportunists, each with their own hidden reasons. The soldier felt the weight of every eye upon him. He had fought armies. He had faced death, but he had never carried the burden of trust like this. Who to believe, who to doubt, who to keep close, and who to cast away. Every choice could decide life or death. The woman stood by him, her voice calm in the storm. Listen not only to their words, she told him, but to their silence. And so he watched, and so he waited. The first test came sooner than expected. One night, while the city lights flickered like dying stars, a group of supposed allies led him into a dark courtyard. They spoke of secret weapons hidden from the council, gifts for the chosen protector. But the soldier's instincts screamed danger. The moment he stepped forward, blades gleamed in the dark, their betrayal revealed. They had led him into a trap, a place of silence where no one would hear his death. The soldier fought with fury, his weapon flashing, his mark blazing. The ambushers hesitated, their courage faltering as the glow of prophecy lit the night. The woman arrived like a storm, golden shields burning around her, her voice sharp as steel. "You fools," she shouted. "You think betrayal will save you from destiny?" The traitors scattered, some cut down, some fleeing into the shadows. But their attempt left the soldier shaken, his chest heavy with the truth. Trust was no longer a gift, it was a weapon. By dawn, more factions had risen. Some shouted his name as protector, others cursed it as a curse. The city teetered on the edge of war, and the soldier stood in the center, torn between loyalty and fear. He looked at the woman, her golden eyes fierce even through exhaustion. "They will kill each other over me," he said quietly, his voice bitter. She placed her hand on his chest, steady and warm. "Then give them something to fight for, not against." The mark pulsed brighter, glowing through his skin like fire. For the first time, the soldier realized he could not run from it. The prophecy had chosen him, but the war would be decided not by symbols alone. It would be decided by trust, by who stood beside him when the storm finally broke. And as the city's bells rang in warning, signaling the rebels' first open strike, the soldier knew the battle of trust had only just begun. The city trembled under the weight of war. Smoke rose from the distant districts where rebels clashed with council guards. The bells of warning rang without pause, their sound mixing with cries of fear and rage. The human soldier stood at the heart of it all, the mark on his arm glowing like fire beneath his skin. Every pulse of light was a reminder that destiny had brought him here, whether he wanted it or not. The alien woman stood by his side, her golden eyes sharp, her voice steady. "The time has come," she whispered. "You cannot hide from what you are any longer." The soldier's jaw tightened, his mind heavy with doubt. "Protector, chosen one, prophecy," he muttered. "I never asked for any of this." She placed her hand on his chest, her voice softer now. "No protector ever asks, but every protector must answer." Before he could reply, a sudden roar shook the ground. From the eastern gates, the rebels stormed into the city, their banners black, their weapons burning with stolen energy. Behind them marched the elder in crimson robes, his silver eyes glowing with cold fire. He had betrayed the council completely, casting aside all pretense. Now he led the rebellion openly, his voice booming. "The human will not save us, he will destroy us." The people scattered, some running in terror, others raising crude weapons to fight back. The council guards tried to hold the line, but the rebels struck with fury. In the chaos, the elder pointed directly at the soldier, his voice sharp as a blade. "Take him," he shouted. "Kill him, and the prophecy ends here." The rebels surged forward, their eyes wild with desperation. The soldier raised his weapon, the mark blazing brighter than ever before. He fought with a strength he did not know he carried, every strike guided by the strange fire in his veins. The woman stood at his side, her golden shields burning like suns, deflecting the endless storm of attacks. Together they held the line, protector and royal, bound by fate. But for every enemy they struck down, more appeared, the tide endless, the betrayal deeper than they had feared. At last, the elder himself stepped forward, his staff glowing with deadly energy. "You are no protector," he hissed. "You are the spark of ruin." The soldier met his gaze, his voice steady even through exhaustion. "Then why does your fear betray you?" Their clash shook the very air, the elder's power striking like lightning, the soldier's mark answering with fire. Each blow echoed like thunder, each strike carving the truth into the battlefield. In the middle of the chaos, the woman's voice rose above all. "Look at him," she cried to the people. "Does this look like ruin? Or does this look like the protector of old?" Her words cut through the fear, and for the first time, the people hesitated, their eyes shifting from the elder's rage to the soldier's burning mark. Some dropped their weapons, others began to shout his name. Hope sparked like flame in dry wood, spreading faster than fear could stop it. The elder roared in fury, striking at the woman. The soldier threw himself in front of her, the mark exploding with light. A wave of energy burst outward, hurling enemies to the ground, shattering weapons, silencing the battlefield. In the silence that followed, the mark blazed like a star, and all eyes saw the truth. The prophecy had not chosen him to destroy, it had chosen him to unite. The elder fell to his knees, his staff broken, his voice filled with bitter defeat. "You cannot run from destiny," the soldier said quietly, his arms still glowing with fire. The elder's eyes dimmed, his whispers fading into the dust. "And destiny will not spare you either." With that, he collapsed, his rebellion shattered, his betrayal ending in silence. The battlefield stood still, the people staring at the human soldier as if seeing him for the first time. The woman stepped closer, her golden eyes soft now, her voice filled with pride and certainty. "The kiss was not desire," she said. "It was a vow, an ancient promise that protector and royal would fight as one." Her words carried across the ruined streets, and the people bowed their heads, not in fear, but in respect. The soldier breathed heavily, his body weary, but the mark still burned strong. He realized then that his life was no longer only his own. The prophecy was not chains, it was a bond, a bridge between two worlds once broken. He looked at the woman, her face glowing in the fading firelight. "You bound me to your world," he said quietly, "and now I will not let it fall." The city, scarred and broken, began to rise in silence around them. The people who once feared him now looked to him with hope. The council who once doubted him now bowed in reluctant respect. The woman who once kissed him in sudden recognition now stood as his equal, not in prophecy, but in trust. The mark pulsed once more, brighter than ever before. It was not the end of the story, but only the beginning. And as the stars rose above the smoke-filled sky, the soldier knew one truth. The final revelation was clear: humanity was never meant to be forgotten. They were meant to rise, to protect, to stand unbroken.